As most classic Volkswagen owners know, a rusty floor came standard with any car that was exposed to, well, air. We also come to expect decades of dicey floor repairs that just barely keep us out of the Fred Flintstone category. Maybe it's the design, or the metal, or maybe it's all the adventures that's left its corrosive mark that ultimately leads to the slow, cancerous death of many Volkswagens. Either way, restoring the floor pan is a rite of passage for any VW enthusiast, with the understanding that it'll be the first place everyone looks to see how properly the bus has been restored. I wasn't sure what needed to be replaced on my floor pan, so I went through my usual process that I use for every piece so far, stripping away the layers of coatings until I can inspect and treat the bare metal. It was easy to see that most of each side needed to be replaced, but I was hopeful that the center section where the handbrake and shifter mount was rust-free. The layers of tar-like undercoating was a real challenge. No chemical that I had in the garage would take it off, and even the wire wheel struggled. Because it was tar or wax-based, heat was the only thing that I could use to loosen it up to make the wire wheel finish the job. The challenge here is to heat the undercoating enough to make it soft without heating the metal too much, or it can warp. I wasn't necessarily impressed with the quality of these replacement panels. They felt flimsy and weak, even though they were the same gauge metal as the original. It's fine though, it's not like it's going to carry any weight or get walked on or anything like that. The marked line indicates where I can't cut past. Then I focus on making the most efficient cut, trying to leave as much original metal as possible. Ironically, I'm cutting out one of my first rust repairs here. Let's just say it's not quite good enough for me. Years ago, I needed to secure the pedal hinge to the floor, but as usual, it was already rusted out, so I can't really say that it's welded. A piece of new metal on the floor, so I could drive the short distance to its new home. It's about this time I fire up the sandblaster. Filled with 80 grit aluminum oxide, I need to be efficient with sandblasting because my compressor can't handle hours of sandblasting in Florida in August. And, well, neither can I. I already had a replacement piece with a very similar shape, so I decided to patchwork this section together with two pieces instead of one. Another method I'd like to ditch when I can upgrade the garage with a bead roller, but for now, it's grind, weld, repeat. Freshly repaired and sandblasted, it was time to cover the bottom in OSPHO, so I could etch it for at least 24 hours. On the top, I used a self-etching primer as a guide coat, so I could start the process of straightening with the hammer and dolly. This tool here is called the needle scaler, and while it's definitely not necessary for anyone restoring a car, it really is perfect for situations like this. These metal brackets hold a rubber seal that the pedals go through, preventing road spray and debris and all that from getting up in the bus. I was close to leaving them as they functioned, but I think you all know me well enough to know that wasn't going to happen. After the center section was sufficiently restored, I focused on the sides, removing the primer and fitting all 3 pieces into place. It took me a while to figure this out, but my main priority really was to keep the shift linkage on the bottom of the center floor panel to line up with the shift rod tube that runs along the center of the floor joists. From previous experience working on this shift linkage, I knew shifting would be a nightmare if I didn't have this section lined up. Once that was lined up, I focused on fitting the sides to the A-post and other restored pieces that are secured to the floor pan. My plan here was to screw everything in place, hoping it was all in the right place, and then unscrew just the surrounding pieces that leave all 3 floor pan sections still together. Patience is probably the most valuable tool in this hobby, and while the process was pretty straightforward from here, it's tedious. Cutting a small section first, then clamping it flush, tack welding and grinding each weld as I went, giving it time to cool, and then flattening with a hammer and dolly. Any other method seemed to add too much heat and warps the panel. I repeated this process until I was satisfied with both the strength and the shape of the metal. Though the metal looks perfectly new and clean here, many sections contain small pits from rust. I've spent weeks cleaning these areas with acid soaks and wire wheeling, and I think it's gone. But rust is a cancer, and I'm sure there's many microscopic bits of embedded and unseen caverns, or at least that's what I see in my nightmares. The point is, I'm still using an anti-corrosive paint that can be used over rusted or bare metal. I ended up applying 3 coats, sanding until all the surfaces are dull, cleaning, tacking each time prior to spraying the next coat. Where the blue tape covers the edges, that will be covered in a weld-through primer that's specifically made to work with POR. I did have one small mistake. The acid etch from the top side leaked out the accelerator hole and wasn't cleaned well enough, causing a reaction with the POR 15. I'll probably sand this part out and recoat it next time I open the paint. As always, the floor pan is ready to be welded in, but will only be screwed because some of the surrounding areas need to be repaired, set in place, and everything before that happens. I've made a mistake in the past, and now I spend weeks fitting parts before I'm confident to pull the welder out. Thank you all for watching all the way through. I have a deadline coming up to get the bus rolling in 3 months or less, so I'd love if you subscribed to follow along the journey.